Hello and welcome. I'm going to talk about sleep disturbances today. This is one of those issues that so many women complain about. Their sleep, when they get to the perimenopause, menopause stage of life, it really is disrupted. And we all know you can't function very well when you're tired. You make bad decisions, you get moody and irritable and snap at people, and it's no fun. And to feel exhausted all the time, you lose that love for life when it continues like this day after day after day. So I want to talk about that because I think it's really important from so many different perspectives. So, my name is Sam, I'm a nutritional therapist, and my aim is to help women going through the perimenopause and menopause and get through that stage into older age as easily and painlessly as possible. So I hope to provide you with simple things that you can do to help you get through the symptoms of menopause and make it an easy journey, basically. So I have here, you can see these beautiful flowers, I'll hold them up. My peonies are out in the garden, so I popped some in a vase with hawthorn flowers, which are looking beautiful. So that's given me a lot of pleasure. So, why do we get sleep disturbances at our stage of life? Well, there are various reasons. We do have hormone fluctuations, and it's not just the sex hormones. We can have extra anxiety. This may be due to the hormone fluctuation, but it could be that we're dealing with an awful lot, which many women do, with elderly parents requiring care, children going through exams or leaving home, holding down jobs which are often quite stressful, and keeping the home, and supporting husbands, and all the things that come into this stage of our life can increase that anxiety. And trying to keep on top of everything, trying to be organised, trying to make sure kids get off to football and gymnastics and the dinner's on the table and shopping's done and blah blah. You get the picture. So there's that. Night sweats, it disrupt us. We can wake up in the night in a sweat, which is really uncomfortable, covers on, covers off type of thing. And the body temperature changes. Basically, even going cold can be another issue, but it's mostly the night sweats, I would say, that most people tend to complain about. So there are some strategies that we can implement to deal with this, and the first one is keeping the room cool. Between sort of 16 and 19 degrees, 18 is what they call the sweet spot, and that's between 60 and 67 degree Fahrenheit. I had to look that one up. The overheating, the night sweats, because it's exacerbated not just by the hormone change, but by a hot room. We need to just keep it cool. Another thing we can do is look at our bedding and have cotton sheets or bamboo sheets rather than a polycotton. And it's because this sort of wicks away the sweat more easily and you can keep cooler. Silk's also an option, but not necessarily everybody's preference. Then the bedding itself that you put on top of that, rather than having a thick duvet, it might be better to have some blankets that you can layer on and off as your body temperature varies. The one thing I'm looking at myself is a silk duvet. I used one when I went away last year, I think it was the year before. It was on a bed when I stayed in the Cotswolds, and it's very fine. And what I liked about it was it did keep me warm. It was quite it was a spring season when I went, and it was pretty chilly in the evenings, but the duvet helps, the silk helps regulate the temperature. So I thought that was a great idea, and I'm going to get one so I can put that on the bed for the summer, and my heavy duvet can either go away, it can go to be cleaned, etc. And then in the winter I can still utilise it when it gets really cold as an extra layer. So I think that's going to be a good purchase for me, and they're not desperately expensive compared to good quality duvets in general. So keeping the bedding simple, and be careful with polyester all the way through because it doesn't help you breathe. But cotton or bamboo sheets, layering blankets, silk duvet would be a good idea. Another thing to do is to apart from the cool bedroom, is not to have a hot bath before bed. That raises the core temperature. We need it to drop down to aid sleep. So a warm bath is fine, but a hot bath is not recommended before bed. It possibly would overheat you and exacerbate your ability to sleep, and also exacerbate the hot sweats as well. Then if you look at your sleep schedule in its own right, the science or the research suggests that if we get up at the same time each morning, that really helps our circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, regulate and come back to its data point. It often gets out of sync throughout our lives for various reasons, but if we get up at the same time, this seems to be a key point to help it regulate. Going to bed at the same time each night is also useful to make sure you get the full 7 to 9 hours sleep you require, but getting up at the same time in the morning seems to be really important. Getting sunlight within the first 30 minutes of getting out of bed, it does say first morning light, but for most of us, we're either up early, we might get it depending on the time of year, or we're getting up in the dark. So it's not always easy to get the first morning of sunlight, but if you get some sunlight within the first 30 minutes of getting out of bed, that really seems to help as well reset the circadian rhythm. And it's quite a simple thing to do. And then when it comes to the hormones, we know that estrogen is an issue throughout our experience here, but also we're looking at cortisol and adrenaline. Cortisol, as you are probably aware, is what we would term as the stress hormone. So it rises when we're stressed, but it's also that hormone that helps us get up in the morning. So it's higher in the morning, and throughout the day it should just diminish and go low, 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 low until it's time for bed, when it should be at its lowest point. And that's to help us get to sleep. But when we have a stressful day, it can be up and down throughout the day. And if it's high at night, that's going to really impede us from being able to fall asleep and basically stay asleep. So keeping the cortisol and adrenaline soft and low. So no scary movies, basically, because that will rise it. It does for me, for certain. Even though we know we're not in danger, the body still responds as though we are. If we see a scary movie and it makes us jump, that is the fight or flight response kicking in. So keeping that to a minimum. And what we can do basically is things like yoga's quite useful, but not too close to bedtime. I found that really helped me relax, but it also, when I did it late in the evening, woke me up rather. So find the time that suits you, but yoga's really good for that sort of relaxing, bringing down the cortisol and just having that sort of calming effect. Breathing exercises are particularly useful. Breathing in for 4, holding for 5, out for 6 as an example, just helps bring down again that cortisol potential. We've got meditation, of course, journaling, reading, but as I say, not horror or anything that's going to raise your anxiety. So they're all sort of useful things to put into place. Then you want to avoid things like tech. So the iPads, iPhones, laptops, try and turn that sort of technology off at least an hour before bed. The recommendation is 2 hours. And I know that's not easy for most of us in our modern lives, but making sure you turn it off. Don't keep it by the bed either is useful. Keep it out of the room, preferably, and that can be beneficial. So just putting that little spacer in, not having your technology in your room, and putting it down about an hour before bed. Avoiding things like alcohol and caffeine. They are stimulants. They will keep you awake, or initially with alcohol you'll go to sleep, but it will kick in the night. You'll have this, basically you can wake up because of it. Spicy food can be a trigger. That can overheat us, basically, as well. Eating too late in the evening. Basically, we create quite a lot of heat when we digest our food. So we want to digest our food earlier in the evening and allow the energy to do other things that the body needs to do. So we can be stressing the body if we eat too late. So eating with a couple to 3 hours before bed, wherever possible, is a good idea. And again, I appreciate in the modern day, this is not easy to do. And I found it difficult. So what I have done is swapped my main meal to lunchtime, and I eat my lighter meal in the evening. And when it's this time of year, I'm going more towards salads, so it's so much quicker to prep when I get home, and I can be done with eating. For me, it's only 2.5 hours before bed, unfortunately, but it's better than it was. That's what we're looking for, improvements. Nicotine also can be a disruptor. Other things that can help, exercise is good, but as I say, not too close to bed. At least 2 to 3 hours before bed, preferably. So things like walking, cycling, jogging, yoga, Pilates, some strength training, all sorts of exercise are particularly good. And it's using up some energy, some physical energy, and also stimulates us to be able to sleep. Let's see, I've got all my notes, as you can probably tell. There are some supplements that can help. I'm just going to mention a couple actually, because I'm always very cautious about talking about supplements. It's very individual, like medication. You need to be aware of where your levels are at, whether you are deficient or not. Also, what medications are you on, because is there an interaction? So this is with, if you want to follow up on supplements, please get advice from somebody who knows what they're talking about, who can actually help you with perhaps any interactions with medication you're taking. You might want to see your doctor on that. But there's two things. Magnesium glycinate is particularly useful. Often we are deficient in magnesium as we get older, and this can help relax the muscles and basically help us calm to get to sleep. And I spoke to somebody recently and mentioned magnesium glycinate because they were struggling with sleep, and they found it incredibly useful. They're sleeping much better. It was something that worked for them. So it might work for you, but please get advice before you go ahead and take anything like this. Chamomile tea, you should be fine with that, but it's just, you know, a chamomile tea, chamomile and lavender tea as well. They're particularly good because they're kind of relaxing, and they just bring down sort of anxiety and any cortisol if it's too high. So they can be really helpful. And I find, I'm not sponsored by anybody, by the way, but I've been having the pucker nighttime tea recently, and it really works for me. I don't struggle to sleep, but I'm finding I'm just a little sleepier after having that. So I have that before I have a warm bath, and I am so ready for bed by the time I've finished prepping for bed. I find that very good. Other things that might be helpful are some foods. There are some foods that can be beneficial, some phytoestrogens in foods that can also help us here. So organic soy could be beneficial, some flax seeds, chickpeas, Mediterranean diet in general can be beneficial here as well. And it's really, if your diet is rich in the fresh seasonal foods and you're getting plenty of greens where you're getting some good magnesium and potassium, etc., that can be really helpful. If you read Beatrix Potter, you know that lettuce can be soporific, so it helps you to sleep. So there's plenty of foods there, natural foods that can be beneficial here. Now, just as a little, what was the one say? I suppose it's a disclaimer as much as anything. It's not just menopausal symptoms or going through this stage of life, perimenopause, menopause, that can disrupt our sleep or make it less efficient, let's say. There are other things that could be going on. It could be that you've got an imbalance in your thyroid. Sleep disturbances can come along with some serious diseases as well. It's related to depression. Sleep apnea, of course, where you find that you're snoring and choking because you stop breathing at night. All of these things are important that you investigate with your medical practitioner. And if you've been suffering with sort of insomnia kind of symptoms for 3 months or more, I would say pop along and see your doctor. It really is important that you rule out various things that could be exacerbating your sleep. I think really major exhaustion as well does need investigation. It's important to go and see the doctor about that. And frequently waking in the night drenched in sweat. It may be night sweats, but there's a possibility there's something else going on. So please don't assume just because you're going through the menopause that it's going to be that. It's worth checking. If you've got doubts, check it. And it's of value to go and get it checked. So yeah, in general, if you can do some of those, just introduce a few of those, one or two, just check. If you can put down 3 ideas there that you might be able to implement, decide to do one this week, one next week, and the other one the third week, and keep those 3 going and see how your sleep hopefully improves. You may find you're less irritable, you've got better mood, better memory, you're having more joy in life. You may find hot flushes become more tolerable, they're not so distinct. Energy levels hopefully should be better as well. And actually weight management, we spoke about that previously, that also can be easier to manage. Your weight doesn't fluctuate quite as much when you've got a good sleep cycle compared to those who have a terrible sleep cycle. So I hope you find those useful. Cool bedroom, what you're putting on your body, in fact what you're putting on, your pyjamas or your nightdress, keeping it lightweight, cotton would be ideal. And then no hot baths, etc. A little bit of exercise, good food, and I hope that you will see that you are sleeping better. So thank you very much for joining me today. Please share this with anybody who might benefit. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. I would appreciate that. It doesn't cost anything. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.